Right, I'm now going to start the meeting, and first of all, may I say welcome to our guests. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to ask Patrick Adams to read out the fire safety drill.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we don't have any fire drills tested, or scheduled, I should say. So if the fire alarm does sound, please leave by one of the nearest exits. There's one there and one behind the chair on this side. Please do not use the lift leaving the building, and please can you congregate on the car park outside the front of the building. Thank you.
You're very welcome here, and I'm talking to our guests now. Just if you don't, you may be aware of exactly what's going on, you may be new to it. As you sit here and look to my left, the people sitting there are elected members. They will be discussing the application, and they will be voting against or for the application. Here you've got myself, I'm Bill Hunt, I'm the chair, and Mark Goldsack is my vice chair. The rest of the people along this side are officers, and they are here to advise us on technicalities and legal matters. We normally have a comfort break at 2 hours. I rather imagine we're not going to have a 2-hour meeting today, but please be aware that if you go out of that door there and turn left, you find the toilets. If you go out of that door there, you go straight on and find the toilets. You're very welcome to pop out there at any time. I'd like to say, would you turn your telephones off if you have them, please? And if you do speak, you'll speak through me. And I think that's everything we can say, except I'll now go to the agenda, and that's apologies and substitutions.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Lavinia Edwards, and Councillor Keith Horgan is substituting for her.
Thank you. I now move to item number 2. Has any member got any declarations of interest? No? Okay. And is there any reason why I shouldn't, after this meeting, sign the minutes of the 2nd of July as being a true record? Patrick.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there is a typo on item agenda 6 in the heading. It says curling. It should, of course, be curtling with a T. So we need to amend that.
So my question is, with that alteration, is there any reason why I shouldn't sign the minutes at the end of this meeting? No? Okay. I've made any of the announcements which I felt were relevant, and I've made them before the meeting, at the start of the meeting. So we now move on to item number 5, and I'll ask the officer to make the presentation, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So this application is the approval of the reserve matters for Phase 5 of the North Ely development, which was submitted in 2013 and approved in 2016. So on the first slide, the site here is outlined in red. That's the red line boundary for the outline application. This application is for Phase 5, which is within that red line, and I'll show you exactly where in more detail on a later slide. So this is the parcel outlined in red. To the west of the site at point number 1 is the A10. At point 2 is Lynn Road and Phase 2, which is currently being built out. At point 3 is the Isle of Ely Primary School. And at point 4 is the roundabout on Lynn Road, which leads to Cam Drive and, if followed south, leads into the centre of Ely. So the wider site is allocated and has outline permission for the development of up to 1,200 homes with associated employment and community uses, supporting infrastructure and open space and landscaping. The reserve matters application relating to Phase 5 of the outline is for 300 dwellings, including 120 affordable homes. All reserved matters, so that's access, appearance, landscaping, layout and scale, are for consideration as part of this application. The application also includes details requested by conditions which were part of the outline application. So the main considerations of this application are the housing mix, character and appearance, which includes the appearance, scale, layout and landscaping, residential amenity, highways including access and any other material matters. The principle of development has been established by the outline permission. So moving on to housing mix. The dwelling mix was conditioned under the outline permission to provide a mix of dwelling types and sizes that contribute to the housing needs and demand of the locality at the time of the submission of the reserved matters. In respect of affordable housing, the condition states that any reserved matters should include a plan showing the distribution of market and affordable housing and a schedule of dwelling size. That's the plan that is on the screen now. The affordable dwellings are shown in purple. Conditions were also imposed to secure that 20% of dwellings are suitable for home office working, and a minimum of 20% of dwellings should be designed as lifetime homes. So 40% of the dwellings under this application will be affordable, 23% of them are suitable for home working, and 47% of units are built to the latest building regulation standards in respect of lifetime homes. The Council's strategic housing team have reviewed the proposals and are supportive of the application, as it will deliver a balanced variety of affordable housing on site and will meet the required 70% rented and 30% intermediate housing tenure split in accordance with the approved Section 106 agreement. They have further advised that the affordable housing mix will meet the housing needs of those households in Ely, as well as helping to meet the Council's overall affordable housing need for the district. So, at its southern point, this phase joins phases 1 and 3 with the proposed local park adjacent to the school on phase 1. So it's here, and this is the school. The residential development goes northward before the site curves to the east, where the residential development continues until it meets Lynn Road. In addition to more formal open space, there is further informal open space which runs along the entirety of the western boundary. And there are allotments here at the Lynn Road end of the development. The proposal includes toddler play provision on the eastern boundary here with Lynn Road, allotment provision as pointed out, an 8-tower park which incorporates informal play areas and formal play provision. The total amount of public open space is approximately 34% of the total site area. The plan shows that open space and where the tree planting will also take place. The design of the dwellings provides a variation and a mixture of materials. While there are some repeating house types, they're mixed within the site to provide interest to the street scenes. Dwellings have been positioned in order to naturally survey open spaces and have been designed to turn corners, preventing blank elevations from being present within street scenes. Boundary treatments and plot layouts have been considered to ensure that street scenes are not dominated by hard boundary treatments. And I'll show some examples of house types on a later slide. So just moving to density, DPH is dwellings per hectare. This plan shows the character areas by colour, with the table showing the density for each character area. 2 of the areas are proposed to have a slightly lower density and 1 a slightly higher density than set out in the parameter plan. However, the variations in density proposed are minor, and it is considered that the proposed densities respect the character areas and the intentions of the design code. So moving on to the house types, this slide shows a sample of the affordable housing types, and as you can see, there's a variation in scale, design and materials. And then the next slide shows the sample of the private house types. And again, you can see there's a variation in scale, design and materials. We've had significant input from specialist urban designers into the scheme to assist with ensuring that the proposal results in a high quality development. In their most recent comments, they have confirmed that they're generally pleased with the revisions made. However, that there are still a number of concerns in terms of some more minor details as set out within the report. On balance, it is considered that across the site, the design is generally of a high quality, and a number of changes have been made to address design comments. So this slide is to show the apartment buildings, and I've ringed in red here on the map where they are located on the site. So moving on to highways, the site doesn't include any direct connections to main roads and does this by connecting to existing roads built out in other phases. It will connect to Lynn Road via Mistletoe Lane, which is in phase 2 and is point 1 on the screen. It will join the A10 via Comis Way, which is point 3, and it will join Cam Drive via Damson Avenue, which is point 2. So the local highway authority has reviewed the application and have commented that the effect of the proposed development on the public highway would likely be mitigated if the requested conditions form part of any permission the LPA is minded to issue. The conditions requested are set out within Appendix 2 of the officer report. Within the site, dwellings generally have 2 car parking spaces each. Some plots also benefit from a garage in addition to the 2 parking spaces. 1-bedroom properties have 1 allocated space. The parking layouts are a mixture of side-by-side spaces and tandem parking, which is to avoid car-dominated frontage. There is sufficient visitor parking available. So flood risk and drainage. The submitted drainage strategy states that the surface water would be split into 2 catchments, with the northern catchment directed to phase 2 and attenuated within the proposed swales and basins, and the southern catchment directed to attenuation basins on the site western boundary and further directed south to the existing watercourse. Foul drainage would also be split into 2 catchments and connected to the sewers of phases 2 and 3 via gravity flows. In respect of wastewater treatment, Anglian Water have advised that the Ely Water Recycling Centre is within the accepted parameters and can accommodate the flows from the proposed growth. They have also confirmed that they consider the impacts on the public foul sewerage network to be acceptable at this stage. There are no objections to the scheme from the lead local flood authority, Environment Agency, Anglian Water or the Internal Drainage Board. So the impacts of the proposed development to existing and future occupiers has been assessed and are considered to be acceptable. The trees officer and the council's ecologist have no objection to the proposal. The council's waste team have noted that the scheme appears to be acceptable, and an energy and sustainability statement has been submitted. Compliance with this document will be conditioned. So in summary, the proposal is considered to be in accordance with the outline permission for the site and has been assessed against both local and national planning policy. The proposal is not considered to create significant detrimental impacts in terms of visual amenity, residential amenity, highway safety, drainage and flood risk. The benefits of the development are considered to outweigh the limited impacts identified. The proposal is considered to comply with the policies within the local plan 2015 as amended and the NPPF, and therefore members are recommended to approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, very comprehensive, and I've understood everything very well. Thank you. We have a speaker, Mr. Paul Belton. If you come to the desk, you've got an on-off switch for a microphone, and you've got a traffic light system which at 4 minutes will go amber, and at 5 minutes will go red. I think the colours are self-explanatory, and start as and when you wish.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Paul Belton from Carter Jonas, and I'm here representing Bellway. I should probably start with an apology because I actually lost my voice yesterday, but it is slowly coming back, so I shall talk nice and slowly, and hopefully you can hear me as I go. These reserve matters are seeking approval for the delivery of 300 new homes, extensive areas of open space and associated infrastructure on what is known as Phase 5 of the allocated sites to the north of Ely. As you know, outline planning permission was granted for this North Ely development in 2016. Since then, Phases 1 and 3 have been built out, and as you've just heard, Phase 2 has been approved and is now well advanced on site. Phase 5 sits in between Phase 1 and 3 to the south and Phase 2 to the north, and is a key part of this master plan, it being the missing part of the site that connects these already consented and built-out parcels. A key aspect of Phase 5 is the delivery of the central part of the spine road that will enable direct connections to be made through the wider development and between Lynn Road, Cam Drive and the A10. This connectivity is key to the wider development as it allows the parcels to be connected, new pedestrian and cycle routes to be created, and the new internal bus route to be provided. Phase 5 also delivers a key part of the Long Fen, the area of open space to the west of the site, alongside the A10. The Long Fen provides continuous green infrastructure throughout the entirety of the site, which spreads into each of the separate development parcels. In addition, Phase 5 will deliver a more formal green square to the south, adjacent to the primary school, which you've just heard is known as 8 Tower Park. It will also deliver new allotments and separate play areas. And again, as you've just been told, over 5 hectares of the site are to be delivered as open space. Given its location within the centre of this allocated site, Phase 5 is very much the missing part of the jigsaw, and Bellway are pleased to be able to bring these reserve matters forward to help realise the overall vision of North Ely. Since the submission of this application at the end of 2024, Bellway has worked closely with officers and other key consultees to review the emerging plans and refine the details submitted. Detailed design reviews have been held with place services and workshops undertaken with housing, ecology officers, the LLFA and highways, to name a few. These workshops have ensured that the details submitted have been robustly tested and refined, and we are very grateful to officers for their diligent work in processing this application so that this very positive recommendation of approval can be put forward to you today. As noted within the report, the phase of the development is the first to deliver 40% of the new homes as affordable housing. That's 120 affordable homes in this case. In addition, we're also delivering 180 private homes. The submitted plans adhere to the overarching design code for North Ely and the approved Spine Road statement, both of which have steered and informed the plans that are now being presented. The proposals also accord with each of the approved parameter plans consented as part of the outline planning permission and each of the conditions attached to the outline approval. Bellway fully supports the recommendation of approval that is before you and hopes that these reserve matters are approved so that delivery of these much-needed homes can commence on site. Bellway are indeed very keen to progress with the delivery of this development and hopes to be commencing works on site in the next couple of months if approval is given. As members will be aware, Bellway is already delivering new homes in the district at Kennet, the Garden Village. They are an experienced house builder within the district, and Bellway would be delighted if they're able to continue the positive delivery of new homes by delivering this key part of this allocated site at North Ely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Members, Councillor Akinwale.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of questions to ask in regards to the development. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I just have the first question, the cycle paths. Can I confirm if they meet the local transport requirements in terms of the width, the junction priority and continuity? What's your comment on the cycle paths in that area?
Yeah, so the cycle paths have been designed in collaboration with the highways officer. Some of the cycle paths run alongside the Spine Road, and the design of those has been dictated by the Spine Road statement. Other cycle paths pass through the development, and yes, the highways team are fully content with the design and geometry of those connections.
Thank you. And also in regards to the homes, are all the homes within 400 meters of bus stops within the area? If not, what are your plans to potentially build a bus stop or bus stops in that area?
Yeah, they are all within 400 metres. One of the plans that we were required to submit was a plan detailing the distance to the already approved bus stops, and one of the questions was whether an additional bus stop is needed within Phase 5, but actually the bus stops to the south and north are so close to the edges that all homes are within that 400-metre radius.
Thank you. And also, the toddler play on the Lynn Road edge, will it be fully fenced and buffered from traffic?
It will, yeah. So that location was defined by the parameter plans, but yeah, working with officers, we've made sure there's an appropriate buffer to Lynn Road and some safeguarding fencing as well.
Thank you. And the 8 Tower Park, will it be fully inclusive? What are your plans to ensure that it's fully inclusive? Noting that there are lots of 4 beds and 3 beds and 5 beds within the phase. So there will be a lot of kids potentially with the need of wheelchairs, and for instance, what are your plans to ensure that the play area equipment will be fully inclusive?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are details of our play equipment, and that includes accessible play equipment. I think from memory, there's an accessible seesaw, for example, and other such equipment. So that has been factored into the design. I can't remember all of the precise specifications, but there are details in the application that set that out in a bit more detail.
Thank you. And what's your trigger for this creation of the play area? For how many homes will be built before this play area is triggered?
Ooh, off the top of my head, I can't remember. The triggers are set out in the Section 106. Being obviously to the south of the site is going to be delivered relatively early anyway, but the case officers may have those triggers to hand. I haven't got the Section 106 directly with me, but I've got it in my pack. If I need to dig into that, I can certainly do that.
Thank you. And how many homes are disabled friendly? So how many homes have wet rooms within the development?
I don't have the precise number of that to hand, I'm afraid. But a number of as I think covered in the presentation, we've delivered a number of the homes to accessible standards. There will be a percentage, which I think Ms. Forbes may have mentioned in the presentation.
I don't think was it mentioned in the presentation? Sorry, the wet rooms.
Through you, Chair. Can I answer that? Yeah, it was 47% of units.
Okay, thank you so much. And also, considering the fact that Ely College has got a capacity of about 1,650 and it's currently about 1,649, what have you been in consultation with the college to figure out the capacity for that college?
No, with this being reserve matters, all those details of capacity is dealt with at the outline planning stage. So all required contributions would be secured then. So with this just being reserve matters, we're just dealing with those details of siting, design, layout, and landscaping and access. So those principal issues have been dealt with through the outline.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if you're aware, but in June 26, our waste collection is being changed, and there will need to be a capacity for each house to have 4 large bins. Is that possible in this development?
Yeah, we've been in communication with your waste team, and they've been a consultee. All of the gardens of these properties exceed the minimum garden sizes, and there's plenty of room to accommodate the additional bin as and when that comes on stream.
And the apartments?
Likewise, yeah, they'll be able to be accommodated in the designated bin stores, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Colbert.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Actually, that last point has caused me to wonder about something that I hadn't previously thought of. So are the apartments situated on the ends of private roads at all? I'm just thinking about where they're going to have their bins collected from, because you're obviously going to need to make some sort of provision for them to take them somewhere if the collection vehicles don't come up private roads.
Yeah, the
See
case
what
of
I mean?
the case officer may be able to bring up the development layer. You can kind of see it a little bit there, but the apartment buildings are just on the inside of the bend of the Spine Road. If you can see that, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there's a parking area to the rear of the apartments, and the bin lorry will access that road from that junction just off the Spine Road, and it's been designed to facilitate the collection from there.
Right, okay.
So
thank you.
it'd be rear collected rather than front collected.
Fine, okay. Then I'll go on to the 2 things that I was going to ask you in the first place. The first thing is hedgehogs. Does your design permit hedgehogs to move freely across the site, including the roads?
It does. That's part of our ecology strategy. Yeah, certainly through the gardens. Each garden has got hedgehog highways, as they're called, and gaps, so that's all been accommodated in the design of the boundary treatments, yeah.
Okay, and the road curbs as such that occasionally they can manage to get from point A to point B without being squashed?
Yeah, that is a good. I don't know about road curbs, if I'm honest. I don't think that has featured in our ecology strategy, but that's certainly something we can take away. I don't know whether that's been designed in on other phases, but it's certainly something we can have a look at.
Okay, yeah, it'd be lovely if you could. And the other thing, my colleague here was talking about disability provision. I was wondering if there was an opportunity in the area that's called the Fenland something or other, the green strip, to plant something of a sensory garden nature, because there are people who appreciate different aromas, you know.
Yeah, Long Fen is its term or its name, but yeah, along there's lots of different planting already proposed. So, just to the north of the development parcel, to the left of the spine road, if you can see that there's an area of planting
Yes.
in and around that junction of pathways, etc., which has got a different character and a bit more of a sensory feel. Likewise, there's some attenuation features and some wetland planting. So there's a variety of different landscape character areas already being created.
Okay.
So I suspect that the needs of different users is probably already accommodated in that design.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I was looking at the designs of these houses, and I noticed that some of them have chimneys. This doesn't seem to be universal, and I would have thought these chimneys must be false, because I noticed one particular one is Wisteria W1 has a chimney over a what's it called? A little thing. So there can't be a fireplace underneath. It's quite obvious there's no fireplace underneath, and there's other ones which are. So why have you put in chimneys randomly, which must cost a little bit more to put in?
Yeah, they do. It's a very good question. And I think if it was Bellway's choice, that there wouldn't be any chimneys, but this is a design requirement coming predominantly from the urban design officers, particularly keen to see a response to the character of Ely and some of those features that exist in and around the town. So on other phases, you've probably spotted there's been a similar treatment on a small number of plots. Usually those plots that are a little bit more visible, just to help with the placemaking. And we were encouraged to do likewise. So they are all false. There are no working chimneys on the site, but they have been incorporated on a limited number of homes for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, it could be useful for ventilating the kitchen and things, but obviously they're situated right above the sitting room. Okay, that's the first one. EV charging, I noticed in some of the parking there is separate, not adjacent to the house, and there is a requirement to have EV charging. Will those places that have, or parking spaces that have, are not adjacent, will there be provision for electricity to be laid to them,
Yep.
so that chargers can be installed thereafter?
Yeah, they'll be delivered as EV spaces. The building regs requires the spaces to be provided as EV charging spaces, and that will be delivered. Yeah.
And that will be from the domestic supply?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure whether it happened in other phases, but there was meant to be 5% self-build. I don't see any self-build here.
Yeah, like other phases, the self-build is all being delivered on phase 4. So that's been established through the outlines. That's the remaining phase to the north of phase 2. It's a very odd numbering, but that's where the self-build have been located.
And I'm not sure whether it's a question for you or for the officer, but it's about, I noticed, I think there's one parking space, one house doesn't seem to have a parking space. Right at the top, the one at Jason, it seemed there was one little house that was sort of devoid of any parking space. No. Go east. Go east, young woman. Yeah, east. No, up towards Lynn Road. Somewhere there. But then I've only got a sort of A4 size plan of that, so it's difficult to tell. But
yeah, it's hard at this scale. All properties have got parking spaces. That there's no car-free homes on here, so it may just be that it's difficult to read at that scale. But they've all got their private parking on that frontage.
I'll have another look at that. And some of them are tandem parking as well, I notice.
Yeah, in certain locations there are tandem parking. We've tried to keep that to a minimum, but it's balancing that requirement of sort of not having dominated sort of car frontages and providing sufficient number of spaces. But
Okay. I think it's, well, I'll talk to the planning office, not afterwards, but during the next presentation. Have a look at what I've found.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. A number of my questions have been answered, so I'll just concentrate on those that haven't. Just looking at the plan, the spine road, as we call it, I can see I'm looking at the detailed map, I can see sort of 2 humps there. I'm just thinking about what, if anything, in terms of, because that is a relatively straight road, in terms of traffic calming is envisaged or has been envisaged along that road. Just touching on it, on that part of my first question, I know it's not part of your brief, but certainly when we visited the site this morning, I think Mistletoe Lane is quite narrow, looking at the amount of traffic, and I know it's not your problem or issue, but I'll bring it up in debate later, but it seems to me to be narrower than what I can envisage the traffic being. But going back to the traffic calming, I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
yeah, so the design of all the roads, Mistletoe Avenue included, has all been dictated by sort of the outline planning permission. But in terms of the spine road, the spine road statement's quite specific about the features that should be provided. So there are a number of raised tables along the spine road as we've designed them. And we've designed that in collaboration with the highways officer to ensure that it achieves the design speed of 30 miles an hour, which is what's set out in the approved spine road statement.
Okay, thank you for that. And if I can come back for a second question, Chair. I know highways haven't adopted it yet, but if they don't, looking at and I know the trees that are on the plan are all part of the the appearance of it. They're not going to be necessarily exactly where those show on the plan. I'm just thinking, if it's not adopted, where would the responsibility for the maintenance of those trees and verges lie? But also, looking at the left-hand side of the site, we've got quite a bit of open space there. Where the responsibility of maintenance on that? Where do you feel that's going to fall?
Was the first part of your question about whether the road would be adopted, or were you still talking about sort of landscaping generally?
It's more, if the road isn't adopted, say for whatever reason you can't come to an agreement with highways, then it's not adopted, where would that, is there a plan B, for want of a better word?
Yeah, okay, understood. Yeah. So it will be adopted. In the very unlikely event that it isn't, then it would be retained as a private road, so that would be the plan B. But there's been detailed discussions already with the highways team, and it's been designed to meet their specifications. And once planning permission is granted, we'll then start to proceed with the other approvals. We have called Section 38 agreements, which effectively leads to the adoption of the road. So that's that process that will be followed. In terms of the open space, the Section 106 requires the open space, I think, to first be offered to the District Council. And if the District Council do not want to adopt it, it would then revert back to a management company. But I think it's worded in such a way that the first refusal comes to you as the Council.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lay.
Thank you, Chair. If you have a look at the plan layout, one of the things that was voiced by several of us during the walk around this morning was, if we have a look at the Lynn Road, and we've got the access at the top, if we come down now to where the road is closed off to the Lynn Road, several of us thought that that's a great pity that it's been designed in that way, because I can see it 9 o'clock in the morning when everyone's going to school from all those houses. We're only going to have one main access onto that Lynn Road, and it would be a pity at this stage if we closed our minds and said, well, the County Council are correct, that should be closed off. I don't believe it should be. What are your thoughts?
So the access strategy has effectively already been approved. There's a parameter plan at the outline application that we have to comply with. That defines where the connections out of the site effectively, whether it's this phase or the other phases, are to be provided. So that parameter plan shows the connection onto Lynn Road and the location that's being built. There isn't an opportunity to provide additional access connections through this reserve matters because it would be in conflict with that approved parameter plan. So my view on that is that the access strategy for this phase is fixed through the outline planning approval.
Councillor Horgan.
Thank you, Chair. I shall build on a question that was posed earlier regarding the Section 38 agreement. I hear what you say that discussions are ongoing. Is there a reason why an application hasn't gone in as yet?
I don't really get involved in Section 38, but I don't think it's possible to apply for a Section 38 until you've got reserve matters approval anyway. So we have to let this sort of run its sort of natural course of getting the planning permission first, and then the Section 38 will follow. But there's been really detailed dialogue with the Highways team already, so we're well advanced with that, but that will follow in due course.
Thank you. If I may, Chair, just now we have the Spine Road, we have a number of other grey-coloured roads on the diagram and red roads. Is it your intention that all roads, including those red-coloured ones, will be put up for adoption?
Yeah, there's a plan in the application which shows initially the adoptable area as we see it. Now that will ultimately be fixed through the Section 38 agreement. But yeah, the intention is to adopt as many of those roads as the Highways will allow, and it includes the T-shaped drives as well, from what I can recall.
If I may just get some clarification. My question was all, not most.
There will be some areas of private roadway, for example, the court that we mentioned earlier to the rear of the apartments will stay private, but there is a plan, and again, it may be something that the case officer can pull up, which has the intended adopted area, and that would probably give you a very clear indication of where we're intending to be adopted.
It's prompted one further question. In a previous answer that you gave, you said that area at the rear of the apartments was where the waste for all of the residents of those apartments would be collected from. And yet, what I've just heard, but correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is that will be a private road, not adopted, and we've already read in the report that the waste vehicles will not enter a private road. So, off the top of my head, I don't really know how many people will be living in those apartments there. But presumably, if they've all got to take their waste to a single collection point, not on their immediate vicinity, that's going to need a fairly large area for lots of bins, and I don't quite see that, and I think that sort of builds on a question that was asked earlier.
Yeah, no, so the design of this area has been agreed with the waste team officers, and the case officer will correct me if I've got this wrong, but I think the waste vehicle will enter private roads if there's an indemnity, if that's required. And they are satisfied that the proposed bin collection points of the apartment blocks can be serviced by their waste vehicle. So that's all been signed off through their positive comments on the application. So it certainly won't be the case that residents of the apartments will then have to wheel their bins back up to the Spine Road or any other point. It will very much be collected at the point of the bin store. But again, the case officer may be able to confirm that through just reviewing the waste team's actual comments.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Christine Whelan.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to trees and the general layout of the trees and things, in other developments in the past, in those areas, the trees have been planted and then just left to die, and there's been lots and lots of trees where they've just been planted and just left. Can you guarantee that the maintenance, while this building work is going on, the maintenance of those trees, and they are properly looked after and cared for, is going to be your responsibility going forward on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think Belwell would be equally keen as you to ensure the landscaping is successful. There's a condition, I believe, already in the pack that requires the landscaping to be maintained for that 5-year period already. But yes, so that will be secured through that condition.
Can I have one more question, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and also the wildlife habitats and the areas around there that are already existing, how will they be protected and will they be replaced if that's, you know, in the ongoing sort of scheme of things?
Yeah, there's details in the submission about protection of existing features. So one example is those very mature trees that are just to the east of the Spine Road, so there's tree protection details in there. Likewise, along the A10, there's existing features that will be protected during the construction period.
Councillor Trapp.
I just wanted to make an apology to Mr. Belton because I actually counted the number of houses, and actually some of what I thought were houses looks to be garages because in excess. So, and that's why to me it looked like they didn't have any.
You're doing well to identify A4 scale, so you know you're absolutely fine.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, going back to the trees again, can you confirm that developers are taking advice on the size that the trees will eventually grow to? Because one does occasionally see trees that are adopted by the highways and then the things grow to fairly unmanageable proportions and just become a nuisance. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got a landscape architect as part of the consultant team, but we've also engaged with Place Services landscape colleagues as well. So they've advised on both species and stock size at sort of planting and maturity. So all of those details have been considered, yeah.
Splendid. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. You mentioned in your dialogue earlier in answer to one of the questions something that just clicked in my brain, so I thought I would ask. An awful lot of these kind of developments across the city are now 20 miles an hour, not 30. Is that something that you've allowed for in your design?
Currently, no, mainly because the Spine Road statement requires us to design to 30. But this has been flagged in an earlier comment as well. So effectively to change the design speed from 30 to 20 would effectively just need more features in the road, so more raised tables, I suppose. So that could be accommodated in future years if ever there was a desire to do that. But as the requirement of the outline application is to provide the Spine Road as a 30-mile-an-hour design road, so that's what we've done.
Right, well, let's finish questions, except I'd just like to make one comment myself. And of course, it's not a mandatory feature, but I personally think that houses without chimneys on them are like undressed people. And I personally feel that when you look at the illustrations on the board there, the ones that you have included, which you didn't have to, I understand, but really look complete and done, and the other ones look like they're undone. So I hope I've made myself clear, and thank you very much for answering so many questions.
Thank you. That was a very thorough question and answer, so thank you all very much.
You can resume your seat now. We don't have any speakers from the City of Ely Council, and we don't have any comments from, apart from the one sitting here, of Ely members. So, and we don't have any statutory bodies. So now we go on to comments from the officer, if you'd like, if there's things that have come out so far.
Yeah, just to come back on the question about occupation and the open space, the trigger in the section 106. So they cannot occupy more than 50% of the dwellings until 50% of the open space has been laid out and completed. And they can't occupy more than 75% of the dwellings until 100% of the open space has been laid out and completed.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We are printing out the plan for the adoptable extent of adoptable roads that will pass round. I just wanted to make the point that the areas that aren't envisaged to be adopted are quite limited. So the majority of the site, the roads would be to an adoptable standard, and they are seeking to have them adopted by the Highways Authority, but that is a separate process that follows after an approval of reserve matters.
Okay, so we now have questions to the officers. Councillor Akinlawi.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one, because one of the neighbours mentioned the issue of a convenience shop. So for the record, can you just mention what you mentioned to me this morning in regards to convenience shop, just for the neighbours' concern being addressed? Thank you.
So this phase is purely residential. The convenience shop facilities are provided in one of the previous phases. It hasn't been built out yet, but it does not form part of this phase. This is purely residential. So those facilities are elsewhere on the allocated site.
Any more questions? Yes, Councillor Whelan.
Are you confident from the statement from Anglian Water about the actual sewage drainage and everything, bearing in mind that there are lots of problems with sewerage and generally overflow, because the sewers are quite ancient now, and a lot of areas are now getting problems from that because the sewers basically just can't cope with the amount of development that's happening in this area?
We've consulted Anglian Water, Lead Local Flood Authority, Environment Agency and the Internal Drainage Board, and they are all happy. They are the flooding and drainage experts. I would never claim to have the expertise to disagree with their statement. I think that's probably all we can comment on that. So to answer the question, yes, I'd have confidence in it.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to try and get a better understanding of what actually is being insured for the roads or areas that are not adopted. And I'm specifically talking about the apartment area and our waste trucks. So are we insuring against an accident happening either involving one of our waste trucks or the drivers of the waste trucks, and they're on private property? Are we insuring against that, or is the insurance policy meant to address that, or is it meant to address the fact that they can't come on there because there isn't an insurance policy or an appropriate cover or whatever? So could we just have a bit of an understanding as to actually what is being insured against? What's the risk?
So the indemnity insurance is taken out because the waste trucks won't enter private property unless there is an indemnity agreement, which means that if they cause any damage to that road or the property, they're not liable because they are being required to enter the site. So, but those areas that are the area outside, it's really hard to describe without showing you the plan, which is on its way. But there is a road up to the apartment building, which runs across the back of the apartment building, which is sought to be adopted.
So basically what I'm hearing is that they won't go on to private land unless there's an indemnity in place against them being sued if they caused any damage. And if that indemnity policy is there, they will enter and collect people's rubbish. And we're satisfied that such a policy will be in place.
Yeah, and this is quite common on large schemes. Not all roads will be adopted on a major scheme, so it's not something that I have any concern over, and it's up to the developer or the landowner to obtain that or ensure that indemnity is sorted out, so that those residents will have their waste collected.
Councillor Trapp.
Thank you very much. Following on from this indemnity policy, will the charge, because obviously it has to be paid for, will that be paid by all the inhabitants or just those who are affected by being on a non-adopted road or private road?
It's not a process that we in planning get involved with, because it is a direct agreement between the waste services team and the landowner or the developer, whoever is completing those applications. Okay. So it's not something that we in planning actually deal with ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've got a further question. Could you, I've tried to find out where the visitor parking is. I tried to get it from the map, but I couldn't see it. Is it possible for you to show where that is on that, the visitor parking?
It's actually spread out around the site, so it is going to be impossible to point it all out, especially when the plan is at this scale, because I won't be able to see it either. I'm not sure if it's on the plan that we are printing for you, but we can have a look when that gets here. So, yes, there is visitor parking. It is spread out throughout the site.
Okay. And this was given permission way back in, what, almost 9 years ago, when EV charging was not on the horizon. Is there going to be any condition? Will the new plans have to be conformed to the new building regulations? Will this?
So EV charging is a requirement under building regulations, so that will be assessed by building control. There is a plan in the application that does show EV charging points, but that isn't something that planning will condition.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Akinwumi.
A quick question in regards to, because I know that some of the consultees mentioned, refer to previous comments made in January, but I didn't find the comments made by these consultees in the actual agenda, whether it's in public file, I'm not sure. Can you therefore confirm whether all the previous requests, conditions, objections have been addressed and or conditioned where possible?
Yes, all the comments have been addressed. That's why all the previous sort of comments are not in the report, because they have actually, the comments they've made previously have been addressed, and I've set out how that's been addressed in the report.
Thank you.
Councillor Goodell.
Thank you, Chair. There is a list of loads of conditions in Appendix 2 of this list. I take it planning has measures to ensure that these conditions are met, but what happens if they're not?
Are you thinking of a specific condition or just generally? I mean, if they're not met, then we may get enforcement involved. I'm not sure beyond that.
So at the moment we don't have proactive monitoring of conditions. That's something we're looking at starting in the coming weeks and months. Most conditions, however, are generally discharged. We don't proactively go looking for the problems, but quite frankly, when there is a problem, we generally will find out about it by some way or another. And if that is the case, then the officers will then chase up condition discharges or, where necessary, take enforcement action. And with conditions, we have a 10-year period to make enforcement action against them. So it's not like they can just sort of discreetly slip by.
Councillor Colbert.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I just want to definitively pin down this business about the bins and the private roads. Are officers absolutely satisfied that there will be a management company in charge of this site to look after any matters such as purchasing this indemnity insurance, which the bin lorries have? What I don't want to see is there being a hole in the arrangements and 10 years down the line these poor people having to drag their bins down to the end of their drive to the road, where there'll be a complete nuisance to everybody because the bin lorries won't collect them. Sorry, I hope that made sense. Yeah.
So as officers, we've had it from our waste services team that they are satisfied with the arrangements and they are happy that subject to that, but it's okay. As far as we're concerned as officers, that's as far as we can go with regards to that. So I suppose the simple answer to that is yes, we are satisfied.
Well, I think that's all the questions to the officers. So now we move into the debate section of the application. And you'll know that, or you'll have read, of course, that the officer recommendation is to approve the application. We're going to wait. Members will recall that at the start of this meeting I did suggest that all conversations went through the chair. Thank you. So we now go on to the debate section, and members are free to give us. We have the officer recommendation to approve, and now it's into debate. Councillor Ambrose Smith.
Thank you. The report by our officers has been extremely comprehensive. They've been questioned closely on a whole range of topics, received very assured answers. I would like to propose that we accept the officers' recommendation to approve.
Thank you, Chair. I think the representative from Burwell has been comprehensive in his answers. Thank you for that. I'd like to go ahead and second the proposal. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm broadly in favour of the development. The only thing I'll say, and I think it's probably none of us were in this room when the outline went through, is I think we missed a trick back in 2016 where we, with all these phases, we didn't put a trigger in, a key in, that certain phases couldn't proceed until the shops and some of the infrastructure had been built. But obviously we are where we are, as they say, so I'm in favour of approval.
Thank you very much. I think it's a pity that the play areas are so at the remote ends of this development. On the whole, I think it's quite a nice development. I'm not sure if it's the optimum, and I regret the amount of tandem parking here. Difficult, actually. I mean, it's actually in terms, looks nice. But the other thing I'm really concerned about is the number of assurances were given by Mr. Belton. And I want about trees, about bins, about EV charging, and I wonder if that should be in some kind of conditions that we should be imposing further on the planning consent. Thank you.
Councillor Whelan.
Thank you, Chair. Whereas I acknowledge the importance of this phase of being the 40% housing, I also think we need to listen to the residents' issues. Obviously, the traffic pressures on Mistletoe Lane, that's a concern. The lack of amenities of a shop and things like that, and the open space and the play areas, making sure that they're done. I am also concerned about the drainage. I'm not convinced that there won't be a problem, maybe not in 5 years' time, but in 15, 20 years' time there will be a problem with the drains and the whole sewerage and that aspect of it. I think it's important, my position is that I would like to see an ongoing monitoring of the traffic and drainage impacts, delivery of community facilities as promised, before it gets too late and so too many houses are built, and have some community facilities there. And there was talk of cricket pitches and all sorts of things like that, and getting like open spaces and people actually able to get out into the open. And the strict enforcement of construction management and minimising disruption to other residents in that area. I would like to see those conditions enforced and sort of monitored, and not just like left to be just whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think I would like to see that.
Well, Councillor Whelan, we've already got a proposer and a seconder for the terms and conditions and the application as approved by the officer, and so we will, and it looks to me as though there is probably, we'll see when we go to the vote, but it looks to me that there is a vote in favour of the officer's recommendations. So that's why I'm going to proceed, unless something crops up very shortly. Councillor Horgan.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank the officer for bringing to me the drawing which shows the roads that are not being proposed for adoption, and apologies it wasn't brought via your office, Chair. But suffice to say, it has introduced an interesting dimension as to the volume of roads that are not even being put forward for adoption. I thought initially it was, broadly speaking, just the area at the back of the apartments. I'd like, with your permission, for very quickly, and I've actually marked all of the white areas which are not being put forward for adoption, as explained to me by the officer, that won't even be put forward for adoption, and therefore will either need to have an indemnity policy, or the homeowner themselves would become liable for repairs to the roads outside their properties in the longer term, and what they do about getting their bin to a collection point, which I know on sites of certain developments means quite a long drag of a heavy bin, potentially for an aged or vulnerable resident. So, do I have your permission to pass this diagram along, Chair, so others may share it?
No, I think what I'm going to do is bring forward a 5-minute comfort break, which will allow me to have a conversation with the planning manager.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm now going to close the meeting for 5 minutes, and we will come back again at 10 past. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your tolerance. The planning manager is going to just make a short, very short statement, which, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a gentle reminder to members, really, that the adoption of roads is not a material planning consideration. Collection of waste clearly is. However, what we have here is we've got no objection from highways, no objection from the waste team with regards to the collection of it. I understand members' concerns with regards to the indemnity. One thing that we could potentially do, if members were so minded, and it would need a member to propose this, would be to insert an additional condition onto the reserved matters, which would purely say, in the event of non-adoption of the roads and non-signing of an indemnity agreement, details of bin collection areas should be submitted to and approved by the local planning authority. I feel I need to remind members that unadopted roads are fairly commonplace in housing developments. We've got them all across our district and many other districts around the country. And private drives, again, not an uncommon thing where people may have to wheel bin short distances. Obviously, we would need to consider that. And that could be done via condition, because I think as officers we're fairly confident that the distances involved on an estate of this type should be overcomable via condition. Thank you.
So bearing in mind what's just been said, the debate section is still open. Should members want to make any additional contribution to the debate section? Away we go, Keith.
Thank you. It's disappointing that large swathes of the roads that are there that are to be used by residents, there won't even be an attempt to have them adopted, which presumably means that they won't therefore be built to a standard which could be adopted, which then further means they could not be of appropriate strength for multiple vehicles over many years to traverse along them, which means that not only will that indemnity policy need to cover our wastemen walking along there to grab the bins and take them to wherever they load up their vans, but the indemnity policy or insurance or whatever will become the responsibility of the maintenance company longer term to make sure that if there is any road damage whatsoever to those unadopted roads, that basically the residents can't do as they would do outside this building and phone highways and say there's a pothole there needs fixing or what have you. They'd have to get the maintenance company to do that, who are the saviour of last resort. It's not quite the right term, I don't think, because I know that the various councils will be offered the green spaces and the roads, etc., to take responsibility for them, but invariably ends up in the hands of a maintenance company who then charges an ever-increasing amount to all residents, I believe, John, not just those that live in the apartments, to pay for the common infrastructure. And personally, I find that, for me personally, it would be unacceptable for me, and I wouldn't buy a home there. That's not to say other people wouldn't. I'm sure these will all be sold in time. But we have an opportunity to put that stake in the ground that maybe we didn't have back in 2016, to actually encourage the right outcome and those roads to be built to at least an adoptable standard, so that we could do our best by the future residents of this estate. That was all, Chair.
Officers have asked the opinion of the Highway Authority, and the Highway Authority has approved this application. They haven't objected to it. And also, the planning manager has said we can add to the officer recommendation and also underwriting an underwriting, I would say, of, so if it isn't adopted standard, then there's an obligation to maintain. And that's as I understand it.
Sorry, Chair, that's not what I said. But what I suggested was a condition to ensure that there was bin collection points.
Yeah.
So that the bins were collected, so residents had certainty about where they needed to put their bins out. That was what I was proposing.
Okay. So if that's what the planning manager feels is suitable to add, I would agree with that. But carry on.
Well, as I say, Chair, I'm sure we're happy with this statement from Highways related only to those roads that they understood they were being asked to adopt longer term. As we've heard, extensive discussions between the developer and Highways have taken place, and I'm sure that between them they would have outlined, we will want you to look after these roads and we'll find something else, someone else to look after these roads. So Highways, I'm sure, in terms of the main spine road and the main arterial roads off of the spine road, Highways are perfectly happy to adopt those and to not raise any objections to that. They are not segregating their comments into, and those roads going off that we don't adopt, we are happy, we're not happy. They have no opinion on those because they won't ever be their responsibility. So the only responsibility at this moment in time is the one that falls on us to make sure that they are built to the best standards possible and that they are suitable for use over the next 50, 60 years by the residents of this estate. That's all I'm saying.
Can I make a suggestion you move on to John Trapp and what was that?
Can we ask Councillor Trapp to make his contribution?
Thank you very much. It is a debate here, and I mean, I'm just looking at that map and looking at the one in front of me and the one that was produced by Keith. For instance, the development in the middle, the sort of longish one, the bottom of it, I could see, there doesn't seem to be the access to the tip of it, sort of like a J there. No, yes, it is, no, wrong way around, not quite a J. But yes, there. The house, could you bring the light back up? Yeah, a bit to the east, a little bit to the east there, yes, bit up a bit there. That house, where's the bin going to be collected from there? Because is it have to go all the way around the White Road to the tip where the Pink Road is, or will there be a bin collection from the main Spine Road? And I don't think there's any access to that White Road except through that from Long Fen, the road that goes to Long Fen from the Spine Road. So that is quite a big drag. I'm not sure if it has been, and the same goes for the just below it. Once again, that yes, that road. I've looked at that road, and unless there's a bin store on the main spine, once again, it's a very big drag. And there's no interconnection between, shall we say, one part to the next. So I'm rather dubious about what will happen actually here. I'm at the moment, I don't think it's well designed. I think it's very nicely laid out, but it's the things like parking, not parking, but actually getting to these places is actually not well conceived, and I'm certainly going to vote against it unless we put some conditions on this that we shall have to have. And I understand that if we vote against, we can actually put, I believe, a new resolution which will impose some conditions.
Councillor Akinlawi.
Thank you, Chair. Couldn't you just, alongside what you've mentioned, just add a condition to ensure the developer builds the roads to an acceptable standard, and then that solves the issue? Is that not possible?
Absolutely. Phil White saying yes.
I'm going to, we need to get this right, and I'm going to close the meeting again, but before it's closed, I understand the applicant has got various comments they'd like to make to assist us in our judgment. Is that correct? Would you come up to the table, please?
Chair. This is my colleague from Bellway, who may be able to answer some questions as well. All of the roads on the development will be built to adoptable standards. That's the first point to make. The refuse tracking has also been fully considered. There's refuse tracking diagrams that have been submitted and considered by Highways and the waste team. They're very comfortable with where the refuse vehicle will go, where the collection points are, and where the drag distances are. So this is an issue that's been considered at significant detail. The arrangement here between adoptable roads and private roads, I think if you've pointed out, is not at all uncommon. It happens on this development itself. It happens all across the district. It happens all across the country. It's very important, I think, for placemaking to have roads of different character, and the provision of private roads is important in that. They have a different character and appearance, and it helps to placemaking. But what's being proposed here is no different to what you see on the vast majority of developments of this scale. The indemnity that we mentioned is covered by the developer, not the residents, and the future maintenance of roads is again very standard. So there's really nothing unusual here that should be of concern or alarm to members of the committee. This is a very standard proposal, and as I said at the very start of this this little insert, this is being considered at some considerable detail with both Highways and Waste colleagues. But if you'd like to add anything, please do.
Would you just sit there for a minute, please? Councillor Goldsack.
I'd like to actually make a proposal, which was that we had a suggestion adopted, which I think was in favour with the gentleman representing Bellway today, which was from our planning manager about the indemnity that it's actually put as a condition on here. I don't know whether, David, you could repeat that, but I thought that was a very sound proposal, which basically reinforces as a condition the indemnity will cover exactly what the members are on about with the adoption issues.
Yeah, just for clarity, Councillor Goldsack, what I was proposing was a condition that basically said in the event that the road wasn't adopted and the indemnity was not made, that further details of bin storage locations would be submitted to and approved.
Speak close to the mic, I can hear you, David.
Sorry about that. So the condition I was proposing was effectively in the event that the roads were not adopted and that indemnity was not made, that detail or further details of the bin collection points would be submitted to and approved in writing by the council, so that we could then consider things like drag distances and things like that, and obviously the appropriate places to put them, and that would then give us the opportunity at that point as well to consult with our colleagues in waste services and highways, just to make sure that we're ticking all the right boxes.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. I'd just like clarification, please, about exactly what we're calling roads, because on this plan we've got grey bits, which are the main ones, we've got red bits, which are the subsidiary ones, and we've got white bits outside of the houses where you traverse from the red bit to the front of your individual dwelling. Are you calling the white bits roads as well?
Yeah, I don't know if your plan's in black and white. I think I sort of saw it flash by. Is it? Oh, this one. Yeah. So effectively, they're all roads. Yes. So taking the parcel that was referred to earlier in the middle on the west-hand side of the Spine Road, you've got a combination there of red roads that they'll be adopted, the T-junctions. And then the white roads that extend off those are the private roads. They're still roads, but they're going to be the private roads rather than the adopted highway.
This is exactly what we're worrying about with the bins. Yeah, so sorry, I've run out of steam. Yeah.
I'm trying very hard to reach a consensus here. Keith.
Just a point of clarification, if I may. If we could look at the drawing and the section of development closest to the roundabout, and the road at either end of that section of development, are we saying that a bin lorry is going to drive down those two white roads as part of the waste management plan in order to access the properties, or have the bin men got to get out of the van, walk down there and drag the bins back down to the Spine Road? Which of the two is it, please?
That's for the applicant to answer.
So I was just trying to see if I could pull up the tracking diagram. I think the one on my screen is actually the earlier version, but I think there's going to be a bin collection point on that road. So it will be the residents will pull the bins out from their curtilage rather than the bin lorry. But the bin lorry won't extend up the white road at the northern part of that road. No, there's no turning facility for the bin lorry. So they will be brought to a collection point, and then the refuse team will pick them up from the collection point.
Thank you. That's the information I wanted to try and understand, because obviously in a drawing of this size and scale, bin collection points aren't necessarily big enough to stand out. Yeah? So the strategy is for residents to take them to a collection point along those white roads, as using these as an example, and then our bin men will leave their vehicle, walk along to those bin collection points, pick the bins up, take them back to the vehicle, empty them, and then return them to the bin collection point. Is that the strategy?
I believe that's the strategy. I mean, it will vary on the different roads, but certainly the road that we've just focused on, yeah, that's the broad strategy. Yeah.
Councillor Colbert.
Yeah, so sorry. I just want to make sure that I've got this absolutely right in my head. So, so the condition is that you will apply, is that adoptable standards should be sought on the grey roads and the red roads, but not the white ones, which you're envisaging them remaining private roads and cared for by a management company. Is that right?
So I think the answer to your question, are the white roads built to adoptable standards, is effectively your question, is that right?
Well, probably.
Yeah, in which case, yes.
Hello, I think the way we're going to go forward here is for the planning manager to repeat exactly word for word what he said earlier. For the clerk or the Patrick will make a note of that, and then once we're clear exactly what we're saying, we will then go to a vote. And I hope there will be accommodation for most people in that. So, planning manager David, would you like to help Patrick out to make a condition that will be tied in with the vote?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, as I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, someone will need to obviously propose this, and I would suggest delegating the final wording to myself, but the wording will be to the effect of, in the event that any road is not adoptable and an indemnity agreement has not been reached in relation to waste collection, then a plan outlining bin collection points and waste collection arrangements will be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. Now, the reason I'm asking for it to be delegated to myself is so I can quickly check with Waste if they're comfortable with the exact wording of that, but that's the spirit of the condition that I would be suggesting.
I'd be happy to propose that amendment, Chair.
And I'd be delighted to second it.
I did say we were going to bring this matter to a close. I hope it's a bit constructive. Councillor Colbert.
Yeah, I'm seconding it, thank you. I'm seconding.
Well, we've already got a proposal.
No. We need a proposer for what
Yes,
David's
I
just done.
understand that.
She's seconding
But
that.
we had a proposal first of all, which was the first proposal. We need to go to a vote on that and see what people think of that. And then if that fails, we then go to the modified one.
No, Bill, you can go straight to
I think you can go straight to
because it's the same outcome.
Well, I'm advised by our legal officer that we're going to go straight to the second one. And so we have a proposal. Yes, Councillor Ambrose-Smith.
In order to try and help move the situation on, I would be glad to accept the wording of the planning manager to be added to my proposal.
That would be helpful, very much so. Thank you. So now I believe we're going to go, my opinion is we're going to go to the vote now. I think we have an agreement, and it will be the officer's recommendation plus the officer's recommendation is that we accept and approve the application. That needs to be in the wording. And then we have what we just dictated to Patrick. Patrick will read that out. So, my proposal is that we accept the recommendation of approval subject to, and Patrick will now read out the addition to the approval.
I've got, in the event of any roads not being adopted and indemnity insurance not being agreed in relation to the waste collection, then plans of further details of bin collection points will be put forward to the council. I think that last bit, I wasn't totally sure if I got it, if the planning manager could.
Yeah, and approved in writing. And implemented in accordance with. Sorry, a little bit of additional technical wording.
Chair, I think also the important thing is delegated approval being given to the planning manager just to dot the I's and cross the T's. I think we all know the essence and the spirit of what we're trying to agree.
I would like to have other planning considerations or planning things like that the playgrounds are fully functional for accessibility. I think I'm sure you made a statement about this, but I think we need to have that actually as a condition. And the same thing with planting, that the trees are going to be such that will be native and not overgrown. So I would actually think about other.
I had started to go to a vote. We will go to that vote. We'd already started the process, so members are clear that there is a recommendation to approve, subject to the condition that Patrick read out. So I'm now going to go to a vote on that. Will those in favour please raise their hand?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Will those in opposition please raise their hand? Are there any abstentions? Well, eventually, thank members for their contribution, and I think it's one of the things that makes this committee worthwhile is that we have additional comments, positive ones.
Thank the contributors from the front as well.
Yes, I do, and I thank you for your tolerance with our slightly unusual procedure, but I think you've ended up with the result that you wanted. So it is now, the matter is approved, and you can leave if you want to now.
Thank you, guys.
We now have the planning performance report, and I'll hand over to David.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to cover both items 6 and 7 in one go. If members please go to page 85 of their committee reports, you will see the planning performance report for June 2025. And also, if you turn over to page 87, you'll see the performance report for July. In the usual fashion, I will ask members to note the two reports, and if you have any questions that you would like clarification on or answers to, please do not hesitate to ask through the Chair. Thank you.
I'm sorry about this, but could you use the same colours for each year? I mean, I looked at one and followed a blue line, and then the next one it sort of didn't. I mean, the lines on those diagrams are different colours for different years between the two.
That's a fair point, if I'm honest with you. I hadn't even noticed that myself. I will speak to the team that put it together and see if we can come up with standardised colours for the years.
Right. Yeah. So I was comparing one
So
colour.
members, we have questions for the planning manager, and he's dealing with items number 6 and number 7 together. Councillor Horgan.
I think a suggestion or a request that I put in before, primarily for the uninitiated, obviously there are some terms which are abbreviated and therefore unfamiliar. I did ask, I think before, whether or not some sort of glossary or an expansion of those terms for those who are less initiated. So DEL on page 86 at the top, decision level, DEL. I don't know whether it's delegated, deluge, delivered, or what DEL, for example, stands for.
Apologies, my microphone decided to turn itself off there. Yes, it does relate to delegated. So with all planning decisions, they have two levels of decision making, which is delegated on to committee. The only other ones I can see that potentially could do with it on there is having something to outline what DIS and an MA mean. If that would be useful, then we could provide a glossary at the end, I think. I don't think that's a problem.
A glossary would be useful. Thank you. That was all.
Councillor Trapp, I believe you've got your light on, if nothing else. Any more questions for the planning manager? No? Well, in which case, I've got a couple of questions for the planning manager, which would be covered on the blue paper. And so I would ask if anybody is in objection, anybody objecting to us going into private session. I'll put it to a vote. Those in favour of going to private session, thank you. And could we make sure that, is there anyone else?